Good morning, Young Kings. Time for your more motivation this morning. It's been a while since I've been on. It's been about 3 weeks. It's been a busy 3 weeks, a good 3 weeks, but nevertheless, there's been a delay in me recording videos. But I realized in that 3 weeks, life is happening at real time. Just because I'm not on here doesn't mean that I'm not grinding and that I'm not going ahead and processing through things in life. It's just I gotta prioritize some things, and one of the things that took a back burner during that season was my uploading videos. So no apologies, sorry not sorry, but I'll continue to do it at the frequency in which I'm encouraged to do it. During that 3 weeks, it's been a lot. I will get you caught up when I do take those breaks, and I just ran 2 miles, so really getting back to running after about three and a half weeks. Those who haven't been watching before, I ran 10 miles and my body really started rebelling on me. I had the hip surgery and a knee surgery and a problem with my foot as well. So after the surgeries, I had a series of injections, and every 2 to 3 years I need to get injections again to allow me to continue to do those activities. So I'm at the tail end of that last 2 years before I got the injections, and my body was really resistant to running. So I had to go through a series of doctor's appointments, did some x-rays and stuff, and my hips are getting in a little worse shape. So they told me eventually I am going to need hip replacement, but I'm too young to do it at this point. So what I need to do is kind of cut back on some of the activities. So that's hence why I ran the 2 miles. I'm going to start dialing it back from the double-digit miles and putting all that wear and tear on my body and just getting it to a point where I can stay conditioned and find other activities. So been increasing my walking. So the first week I was off, I did a series of injections in my knees, and I thought that would allow me to run, and I tried, and they were still a little painful. So I had to go back in a few weeks to get another series of injections in there. Yesterday, I got the injections in my hip, which will allow me to get out here and do somewhat of running today. Feel stiff. I mean, feel like it's going to take a while. They say give it a few days before it can return back to its motion. I won't say full motion, but just the normal motion in which I'm been accustomed to. So it'll be allow me to do limited activities and stuff of that nature. I've never been flexible, so flexibility is probably not in the scope of reality, but I just need to kind of be mindful of that. Also during that 2 weeks, glad to report I'm final in this divorce process. It's been taking a long time, and I was pessimistic. I was optimistic but pessimistic at the same time when we went in to finish it, because we finished it in mediation. We didn't even have to go to court, but I think it was fair. During this whole process, I thought the court system is stacked against men, and I can leave that process and I can still tell you the court system is stacked against men. The laws that are on the books is to protect females, and this is not a gender bashing contest. You can go on other YouTube pages for that, but this is just the state of facts and what the reality of the court system is today. And it was noted, like every time in a negotiation, our mediator, who was also a lawyer as well, she would say things like, I know it's not fair, but this is the law. And for them to even acknowledge that there was a inclination of things that was to be perceived unfair and it still be considered the law was mind-boggling to me, because I thought justice meant that it would be fair for all, but it was just fair for the female side. But of all the unfairness, I think it came out as fair as unfair can be, if that makes sense. And I used to tell my daughter about quitting and about things. I used to ask her to do things, and she was like, Dad, that's not fair. And I used to coin a statement that came to my head. That's like, the fact that life is unfair for everyone makes it fair for everyone. So life is unfairly fair. So if you can get to an unfairly fair where you can accept and you can live with the injustice and the unfairness and things that have happened to you, you're going to be a better man. You're going to be a better person, because if you go through life expecting everything to line up the way you think it should be, then you're going to be set up for disappointment, and you're going to be discouraged, and you're going to be beneath your purpose, because life is unfairly fair. Like, out of this situation, you know, I won't say that I lost a lot, because I gained so much more. And I was thanking the Lord for the blessing to be even to recover or go through this process. Overall, you know, we had 2 houses during the marriage and 1 that I purchased after. So a total of 3 houses. So she ended up getting the 2 houses and roughly $2,300 a month for the rest of her life, because she'll get a portion of my pension. So a part of me was like, wow, here it is. She's going to benefit from me from the rest of her life. And that was the selfish perspective of mine, and thinking what she had took from me. But in reality, what I gained is my peace is priceless. I think one of the best things she could have done for me is leave me, because it freed me to really be who I am, and it propelled me into a direction. And also in that, it's like I had to thank the Lord that I've been blessed abundantly above that I can even afford to do that, and not still be in the means of poverty. So not in what I lost, but what I gained. And my potential, my earning potential is still significant. If I can go get out the Army and go chase 6 figures plus, although I'm over 6 figures now, but I can be on the money pursuit and show success to the extreme based off my resume, my qualifications, my ability to communicate, and ability to manage tasks from conception through completion. There's all type of organizations that's looking for individuals like me to be able to do that. So I have future capital through my intellectual capital and an ability to market myself and go do that. But the ability to be able to withhold that, to be able to give that and still be able to survive, I've been proud of myself in the resiliency as I went through this process. And there's a lot of things you go through that you're gonna have to reflect on it and build your resiliency portfolio, so you can understand, like, everything that's came at you, that tried to attack you, that you're still standing. You're stronger than what your mind will give you credit for. At times, your mind wants to have you stop short of the goal line. Your mind wants you to give up, and it wants you to take the easy road. If you're looking for easy, it's time to click off now, because I'm not an advocate for the easy journey. It's time for you to really assess where you're going and assess who you are, and then look at your life as one big classroom. It's teaching you things, and if you pay attention to what it's teaching you, you'll be further ahead next time you go through something. So when you're going through something hard, you know, it says don't pray to God that he removes things from your past and give you easy life. Pray him for strength. Pray for strength to endure a hard one. Because if you always pray that things get moved out of your way, then you'll continue weak. You'll be weak when the next thing comes around. And the intent of these lessons is to make us stronger, is to make us more wise. You know, the difference between a smart person and a wise person is that a smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from other people's mistakes. So these videos are going to give you a view into how to be wise and learn from some of the mistakes I made. And that's not to say that you're going to be perfect. Don't make yourself, don't put the burden of perfection on yourself, because you won't attain it. And it's not something that you can maintain. You can do good, you can be great, you can be excellent, and that can be levels of progress along the way. But perfection, take it off the table, and don't let nobody else hold you to the point of being perfect. So as I was running this morning, it just told me, like, just to keep going. You know, sometimes you'll be injured and there'll be setbacks and you have to start over. If you go back to the series of walking wounded, when I pulled my hamstring, and it took me a long time to get back to running again. And that's how life goes. It goes in series. Sometimes you'll be able to sprint. Sometimes you'll be able to go marathon. I remember the time on these videos where I'd done the 26 miles, the marathon, the self-marathon, 13, 15 miles, 10 miles. But now it's in a season where I need to kind of dial it back to preserve my well-being. One thing I don't want to do is run my body into the ground being in the service and then transition out of the military and not to be able to maintain some structure of fitness in life because I just beat my body up. So it's time to transition into using my mind. So sometimes you won't be able to go fast. Sometimes you're going to have to walk. Sometimes you're going to have to rest. And all that is at the pace. And that's why one of the last video was setting the pace. Go back and review that video, because there's some jewels that would drop that would benefit you. And matter of fact, I need to go back and watch it again, because there's some jewels that benefit me as well. So when I talk in these videos, it's not just talking to you. These are life lessons that I'm learning as myself as well. So we've been going through this series of the rebirth. I'm still under the operation to restore the Lion King. If you haven't watched the Lion King, I encourage you, if you're a new follower, go watch the Lion King. There are a lot of lessons in there. The first Lion King, not the second one. There may be some lessons in the second one, but I'm more catered to that first one. There's a lot of lessons. So restore the rebirth, reintroducing your authentic self to the world. And I think this is going to be the conclusion of the rebirth. And I'm going to start meditating and praying on what the new series is going to be. But we've been kind of like, this thing has been impregnated for the last 6 months of this year. And it's time to be born. And it's time to come out of the developmental stage. And that's saying out of the developmental stage is the learning thesis, is that we start to operate in the trueness of ourselves and start being who we are. We are human beings. We are not human doings. We're not human accomplishing. We're not human moving and, doing goals and stuff like that. It's about being who you are and being in the present. As I was posting on a few videos on social media, on Instagram, follow your boy on social media, Soldier605 Morton, and you can see the life in between the videos as I post here and there on there. But anyways, don't let your past rob your present. Don't let it hold your future hostage either. And the trick of the enemy is to get you to wallow on a mistake or something that happened in the past. But the reality is that life is happening now. Life is happening as you are breathing right now. You can't change anything that happened in the past. You can't go and touch the future and make sure nothing wrong happens in the future. You don't have control over the past or the future. The only thing you can control is your present moment. So why would we spend so much time dwelling or meditating or just thinking on things we can't control? And that's why I think that Serenity Prayer is so powerful. It says, God, grant me the courage to know the things that I can change and accept the things I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. You got to be able to know what you can control. And if you can't control it, then why are you dwelling on something? You can learn from it. They have a saying, chew the meat, spit out the bone, but you don't have to get it to a point where it's punishing you time and time again, because that's when you get into the immoral acts of forgiveness and redemption. Like, if you're going to pay for something you did wrong, pay once. Like when you go to buy something from the store, they give you a receipt. You go to buy a new pair of shoes and you pay the clerk the money, however much those shoes cost. They give you a receipt. Those shoes become yours and you go put them on. Now, what if that same store tried to come to your house and charge you every time you put those shoes on? You'll be upset that, like, you already paid for that. There's no need for you to pay again. You own that. So that's the same with your mistakes. You pay for it and then you own it. Like, don't let somebody keep charging you interest on something that you didn't pay for in full. And that's why I think I like the Lord and Savior, Yeshua, because he paid for my sins in advance. Like, I'm already been forgiven. That doesn't give me a license to continue on doing things in a destructive manner. But at the same time, it relieves the burden of me paying a penalty for it. Now, there are some consequences. Don't confuse penalty with consequences of. There are things you will have consequences of, and that's things that you need to own. But you own the consequence. But that penalty that they try to get you, if you're not going to go back and pay that clerk every time you put your shoe on, don't go back and pay that person with remorse or forgiveness or kissing their tail because you made a mistake and they want you to act accordingly, to do something, to manipulate you to do something other than what you want to do. So don't pay more than once. That's immoral. Anybody that try to get you to pay for things over and over again is immoral, is unethical, and it's not something you need to be attached with. Separate yourself from that. Move forward. So I know I kind of went into that kind of hard because there's a lot of immoral acts going on where people are operating in unforgiveness and they're trying to earn their forgiveness from somebody that they may have made a mistake from, and that person is being immoral and unethical by not allowing you to move into your destiny and not allowing you to be restored to a full state. They want to keep you in prisoner of a mistake that you made. So don't let them be prisoner. Live in your presence, own what's happened, and live today. Live today. So I'm gonna wrap this video up because I got up this morning. I was reading in Matthew 7, and Matthew 7 dropped a few jewels, and I think it's good for the conclusion of the rebirth, because the title of this video is going to be the cutoff. This is the season in our life where we are being rebirthed into what we were destined to be, our own authentic self. And in order to do that, there's going to be a necessary cutoff. There's some people that's hanging around you in your life that no longer need to have access to you. They no longer need to be attached to you as the source, because there's sources in you, resources, ideals, energies, and stuff that there's dead branches that need to be pruned off. And we'll get into that. So it starts off in Matthew 7. It talked about take the narrow road. And I know we talked about this before in the video about taking a narrow road because it leads to life. And it said the broad road leads to destruction. So the first key to cut off, if you find that you are following a crowd, stop immediately, turn around, and reassess what are you doing. Because if a lot of people are following you, and that's kind of hence these videos got 30 something subscribers, and that started to disturb me a while, because I look at content on YouTube and people are telling you to subscribe this, cash app them this, or go into their sponsorship this and that, and every 30 seconds there's a video showing they're marketing something to you, they're selling you something that they themselves have yet to attain, but it sells. People sell it, and they got millions of subscribers, and part of me was like, man, I'm out here giving free game, free jewels, and for 30 people to watch. But those 30 people who watch it and pay attention, they're going to really go the way of the narrow, because I'm not selling you anything. I don't need anything from you. Don't want anything from you. I'm here to give you life and give you it more abundantly by the visions of things that have come to me and the things I've experienced. So when it talked about in Matthew 7 about going that narrow road, and it says broad is the way to destruction. If you're following a lot of people, or a lot of people following you, where are you leading them to? Are you leading them to life, or are you leading them to destruction? And are the people you're following, are they leading you to life, or leading you to destruction? Because that ought to be a key indication of things going wrong in your life. When everybody's accepting you and you're getting along with everybody, and y'all just happy-go-lucky all the time, that ought to give you a key indication that some things are not right. What is the media feeding you that you're just being blind, watching, and just accepting that this is what it is? So if you find yourself going the road where everybody else goes, then that is your warning sign. If you find that you're alone at times and you feel like you're different and you feel like you don't fit in, you're on the right track. That ought to be validation that you're moving in the right direction and that you're headed the right way. And in your due season, those people who were against you will come back around. They'll see the wisdom in you staying the course and you being authentically you. But go the narrow road. Assess where you are. Assess, are you on the narrow road or are you on the broad road? So that's what it talked about in Matthew 7. And then the second parable, it talked about the cutoff phase, the pruning. And it says the tree, a good tree cannot bear bad fruit. And every tree that does not bear good fruit needs to be cut off and thrown into the fire. And that is important. It didn't say, it needs to be nurtured more back to life. It needs to get in a situation where it can thrive and stuff like that. You are the source. If you're thriving and you're being in your authentic self, you are the source. So if somebody is not producing from the source of your energy, of your authentic self, that tree or that branch is not bearing good fruit, and it needs to be cut off. I don't care if that person is your parents, if it's your spouse, if it's your kids, if it's your friends, or if it's the people at work. Anything that's not bearing fruit in your life, cut it off. And I was going through practicing yard therapy, working on my yard, and it became real to me about this cutoff, this pruning phase. Pruning, it seems like it's killing the plant, but it's actually giving it more life. Like the plants that I have in the front yard, I was watering it, I was feeding it, I was trying to be nurturing to the flower and everything of that nature. And there were some of the flowers that bloomed and some of the flowers that started to perk up and stuff of that nature. And there were some flowers that wasn't responding to the energy, the effort, and the resources I was giving it, and it was starting to die off. And so what you need to do, and what I learned through YouTube and talking with the people at the store, is that you got to prune it. Those flowers that are not growing under those conditions, you start plucking them off. You peeling them off. And I was like, man, that's killing my plant. Now it's not that many flowers. The dead ones were being pruned. But once I took off the dead ones, it gave room and birth for new, bright, vibrant flowers to come in. So not only was that flower, not the dead flower, not producing any life, it was preventing things from coming in to the life that wanted to produce life. So that pruning is necessary, it's essential. Those things you plucking away is not that you don't like people, it's not that they're bad or something. They just maybe not be good for you and the source and the energy that you're providing, because they received the same water, they received the same plant food, they received the same sunlight, they just chose not to grow. And in that condition, it was time for them to go. So your motto ought to be either grow or go. Like, they can't just be stagnant with you. Don't let nobody hang on to your branch and be dead and then prevent life from really coming in. Prune them, cut them off, get them out of here, burn them by the fire. So I know I'm kind of passionate about that, because I think this finality of my divorce was a final pruning of a relationship that never flourished, and I accepted it long, and it prevented my life from really flourishing in a personal relationship area, because I let dead things hold on too long. And how many dead things are you holding on to? Maybe you're at a dead-end job. You've been working at this job and they don't appreciate you and they don't value your skill sets, but you're just there because you're getting a paycheck and you need to pay bills. But by you staying there, you're not allowing yourself to flourish in an environment that's conducive to benefiting from the gifts and talents that you have. So you won't really grow into the person you need to be. So everything in your life that's not bearing fruit, cut it off, assess it. Are you growing? And then assess yourself. Are you feeding? Are you watering this person? Is it supposed to be growing? Are you creating an environment conducive to that person growing? And if you can answer yes to that and they're still not growing, pruning time is in effect. It's time for the cutoff. Don't let them sit around if they're not producing. Cut them off, prune them, throw them away, and you will realize in due season, the plant will be full. And I'll on the title of this, I'll put a picture of the flower once it's bloomed. And it's beautiful now. I used to pull up and a portion of it be beautiful, another portion be dead, and was like, hey, what's going on? Those were not ready to be in the season, so they had to go. And the last thing, and I know again over 22, 23 minutes, was it talked about the builder, about building your house on solid ground and not on sand. So by not going the narrow road and then pruning and then watching where you build things at, because on a solid rock, the winds came, it blew, and the house was still standing. The house that's on the sand, the wind came and it blew and it knocked it down. So if you're going the broad road and you're not pruning and you're building on sand, when adversity comes, you're gonna wobble and fall. And everything that you thought you were working for is gonna be destroyed. But if you go the narrow road and you prune and you build on the rock, you'll still stand. After all this adversity that I went through, I'm still standing. I'm still flourishing. I'm still growing. I'm not off my ass. I'm standing up. I'm standing tall because I went the narrow road, I started pruning, and I built on the rock. So assess that, because if you do anything different, and I'm not saying you got to do the same thing I do, the things that I do may not be for you. What's for me is for me. What's for you is for you. And only you can determine that, what's right and what's wrong. Although there's a supreme right and wrong, and universal truths remain true, not only in this video, but after this video and after my life, it will still be true. So it's not situational truth. But once again, if you're going or following people and you got people hanging around you carrying dead weight and you building your house on sand, don't be surprised when you lead up in destruction and you end up with nothing. So narrow road, prune everything and anybody that's not bearing fruit, and build on the rock. Be well, young kings.